Hello everyone, I'm Leslie Cornwell, certified nurse midwife with Midwifery Business Consultation, and this topic we're going to go over today is called Creating Multiple Revenue Streams. I wanted to put together a presentation that helped midwives, doulas, lactation, just women in general, understand the power of financial freedom and even just the risk in your life, your business, your personal life by diversifying your income streams. The way money comes into your life will definitely help short-term and long-term. So these are some of the just copyright legal disclaimers that are on all of the presentations. Everything is protected by law, the intellectual property rights of empowering midwifery education. Can't show it to other people. If you have any questions, definitely go to legal advice. These are educational purposes only. If there is a strategy or a suggestion, talk with your accountant, lawyer, financial planner, someone in that clinical expertise to customize it to your needs. So some of the objectives we're going to talk about today are understanding what are multiple revenue streams. Why are they so important? What are the two types of income that you can have coming into your life, which are passive and active? Explaining the importance of why. I know I teased about it at the first slide. Understanding why, just for midwives and birth professionals, having multiple revenues can really help you serve families more. And then giving examples of it that can help midwives, birth workers in their own actual life. So the definition of multiple revenue streams is literally multiple ways of money coming into your life. There can be passive, there can be active, it could be investments, it could be you exchanging your time for money, it can be rights, royalties. There's so many different ways that money can come into your life, and they all are affected differently because our goal is to diversify. In today's society, there's so many unpredictable things in the backdrops, and we want to reduce our risk short-term and long-term for the families we serve and our own families. So talking about how to keep a track of all of those, just with your business records and carrying it out. And it gets a little confusing if you have multiple ways money comes into your life and making sure they're performing how you would like them to. More income streams means more security. It's diversified in different industries and different risk platforms. There's just so much benefit. And the average millionaire has 6 revenue streams. So, I mean, if you eventually want financial freedom, you want that peace of mind, you want to serve women more, you got to have different ways of money coming into your life. So the big two types of categories with income streams are active versus passive. I would say most people are very familiar with the active version of income. That's your traditional job that you get a paycheck at every 2 weeks. You have agreed upon hiring that you will work for $20 an hour, and then you are exchanging and actively getting those funds. There's self-employment. So self-employment, even though you are your own boss, you have to consistently exchange your own time for money. If you go on vacation, you take a day off, your income is directly correlated with products and services you are making. The one I love the most is the passive income because it's no longer restricted by your own time. I mean, we're hard workers as birth professionals, but there are only so many hours in the day, and you'll figure out from the professional development courses and just learning, time is your truly greatest asset. We can't replace that. We can't exchange that. There's no more we can get of it. So you definitely want to leverage other people's time, other people's resources, expertise, and create more passive income streams into your life. So you're taking and creating a system, you're taking funds you've worked actively for and turning them into a passive income. There's so many wonderful ways to create passive income, and each one has high risk, low risk, depending on your expertise, depending on your area, depending on the current political environment. There's so much to think about, but there's so many opportunities out there people just don't realize. So for the active income, I talked about examples of that. That's the tips. You're a waitress, you're a bartender, you're self-employed, an independent contractor, a locum, you're doing your own home birth center practice, you're exchanging your time to catch babies. The one that many people think of are wages, salaries. You're exchanging your time directly to get paid every 2 weeks. So for passive income, this is the one I'm going to focus on more because it gives you an unlimited income stream potential when you set up the right systems and you do the right investments. The power of passive income in the lives of midwives and birth workers. Now you can serve more families. Now you're not pressured by your private practice to make the numbers work. You can now serve truly the underserved. I mean, I hear midwives talk all the time about the money doesn't matter. It does matter when you want to keep the lights on and you want to pay your staff and you want to make the overhead expenses made each month. Having something where there's other income streams that can filter in, and you can make a nonprofit birth center. You could truly make it where you have a foundation from your other income stream that pays the overhead cost, and the families you want to serve can truly be served. There's a lot of benefit to passive income streams. So the big thing with it is it's initial work to get going, whether you're using your active funds to do an investment, you're doing some research to start a rental portfolio, you're creating online courses, you're doing a tools, templates, something you're making initially that will give you passive income long term. It's not just hitting a button and all of a sudden the money flows in. So that's the big difference, is people have to see the long-term investment. It's not an instant gratification. You have to start out a project, a resource, a business, something that will be giving you passive income long term. So these are some of the examples I'm going to be talking about with passive income. The one that's most common is owning a business, and we talk a lot about the difference between self-employment and being a business owner. Most midwives fit the category of self-employment. They typically are themselves, another partner, and they're exchanging their time for prenatal visits, for birth, for administration, to get paid by the families. And so I challenge midwives when we're doing business planning and strategic long-term planning. I would love for you to create systems where you're the business owner. You can choose to be part and give direct care, but if you all of a sudden wanted to step away for a couple of months, you've created a business system that can function effectively and continue to grow without you being part of it. So it's amazing to have a team of midwives, 3 to 5 midwives, a birth center, a couple locations, having a business structure you're going to grow into that now can serve more families. It decreases the risk of burnout. It has so much benefit to go the direction of midwife and birth professional businesses. Rental properties, they're a great option. I do encourage quite a bit of research before you do that. The definition of any of these choices can be risky if you're not well educated and have the right resources on your team. I did Renata's education. It was a real estate investing program that took me about 1.5 years. There was 80 amazing 8-hour courses about all the different real estate investing strategies, and it really helps me out when I talk to my business consultants. We talk about deals to make for a community center, a clinic, a birth center. Having these strategies, having these tools doesn't just work for creating passive income, but just accelerating the success of a business, getting no money down, creative acquisitions. There's so many benefits to the knowledge of real estate investing. And the other thing is rental properties, when you have long-term rental properties, have the most tax deduction benefits with the federal government, food, farmers, and real estate housing, because they want the private sector to support and have access to affordable housing. So there is a lot of benefit to your other businesses, even if the money isn't coming in much from the rental portfolios initially, you get so many write-offs with the depreciation, the overhead expenses on your rental properties that will now lower the taxes on other revenue streams. So there's a lot of benefits to multiple revenue streams to decrease your taxes and increase your security. The ones more people are traditionally aware of are investments. So if you work at a traditional job, they'll give you a 401k, a 403b, you'll get a match potential. That's the one most people are familiar with, and it is passive because you've initially made the money, the company has matched it. It's theoretically supposed to grow with time. And so stocks, bonds, mutual funds, that's the more traditional financial investments people are familiar with. And it's not a bad idea to have some of that part of your long-term plan. I just think too many people get heavy that that's their only plan. All of their funds, all of their passive income is in one bucket. And so that's one thing you just want to put a little bit in everything. Private money lender, you can become the bank for somebody else. You could become their startup business lender. You could be their real estate investment private money lender. There's so much potential in, instead of the bank getting the interest, that amortized interest over time, you could be the one that's getting that interest. So it's more of once you get enough passive income streams going and you don't quite know additional places to put your funds, definitely private money lending is very profitable if you understand the amortization curve. Mostly interest is at the beginning. So you could, for startup business, be their loan for 2 to 5 years while their business is getting going, and then have them refinance another direction after they're established and they have that history to show a bank or a private institution. Whole life insurance, many people don't think of that as a passive income stream. Many people don't even know the difference between term life insurance and whole. Term is like renting a house. It's short term. It could be for 10 years, it could be for 20 years, it could be for 30 years. Traditionally, people will get term life insurance because it's cheap and it's a temporary thing. They want to wait till their debt's paid off. They want to have life insurance for their family until the kids are out of the house. There's many different reasons to get life insurance. Whole life insurance is a great strategy because there is wealth accumulation inside of it. You have the insurance as long as you pay your premiums until whatever age it's determined on the policy, but you have insurance for the rest of your life, and you have a compounding effect of a dividend interest within that company of compounding. So I see a lot of these great strategies used on kids. Get a small $50,000, $100,000 life insurance policy, cover funeral expenses, that rare thing, but they have an extra 20, 30 years on their life, that the compounding effect of whole life on kids' opportunity and creating a legacy is pretty powerful. So I mean, whole life has its benefits if you've got 10, 15 years out, but I say the big benefits is when you've got more like 30, 40 years, just because of the passive income that grows within the policy you can tap into before you pass away. You can use it for practically anything, or just keep that cash accumulating that'll typically be tax-free to your family after you pass away. So there's a lot of benefits to whole life insurance. Annuities, they are an option where you can go to an investment company and put in money and contribute, and it typically is put into the stock market. And then when you hit the age of retirement, traditionally 65, you can convert it into multiple different fixed income streams. You can make it a fixed income stream for 10 years. You can make it a fixed income stream for the rest of your life. You could choose to make it a fixed income stream that'll be your life and your spouse's if you pass away. So there's many different ways to do it. I've even seen it where you can keep it where it's not fixed and it's based on the market, and it'll up and down each month. But most people like the benefits when they get older of security and comfort that consistently the same amount of money will come in each month to cover their overhead expenses. So definitely annuities are more of a long-term passive income stream that you can work towards and save. Writing a book, something that's very simple. Everybody has amazing knowledge in their head. You can write an ebook, you can do transcription, you can hire an editor, whatever you love to learn about, or you learned about in another industry that would be great for birth professionals, midwives to learn about. So an example is I have absolutely loved learning about the business and financial planning side for birth professionals. And there's not a lot of courses, a lot of tools out there to apply that into our industry. So I've done a lot of education. I've done a lot of resources on the real estate investing strategies to help get a birth center with no money down. I've done it on asset protection because many midwives can't afford the malpractice insurance premiums. And there's very neat things within your business model you can do to decrease the risk and protect your personal assets, like a trust, a revocable trust, definitely a revocable trust, creating an LLC, following the proper rules of your state so that you're not breaching that veil of protection. There's just so many things you can do, and you can talk about it. You have unique knowledge in your head, and once the book is made, it is passive income for the rest of your life. Whoever buys the book, if it's an ebook, they download it. There's a lot of benefits that way. Starting a YouTube channel, some people make money on it, some people don't. I started my YouTube channel not with the intention of making money, but it's another great marketing way and for me to network and get connections and get the knowledge and inspiration out to the masses. So passive income can come from YouTube channels. There's specific criteria of how many subscribers and how many followers, how many views you have. There's just a lot, and a lot of people will get training if they're ever wanting to have passive income, because once you make the videos, they're on there forever. As long as you make them and they follow the rules of YouTube, you have a passive income potential from your videos, from your knowledge. If you're a person that prefers to talk versus writing books, there's definitely ways to get the knowledge out to the masses. And it doesn't have to be anything overcomplicated. You could just sit and talk about some great things. You could do some videos showing skills. You could do some videos interviewing people. There's so much potential out there. Selling automated information online. So there's products, there's resources, there's tools, there's templates, there's handouts. There's so much with the midwifery birth professional community that just doesn't exist. Everybody creates it themselves, or you have a great business apprentice mentor that helps you and utilizes them. So you can get affiliated with AEBC, ACNM, MANA, some of these groups that have a little bit of resources. But if you want something very specific, financial agreements, fee schedules, employment contracts specific to birth professionals, policies, procedures, there's so many automated systems you can create, shops and tools and templates. That's knowledge, and you're creating user-friendly, customizable resources they can use within their business, they can use within their professional life. So there's so much out there. Once they're created, it's automated in the backdrops. The person goes to your website, they click pay, they download it, and you get paid while you're sleeping. So I think that's the big benefit I hinted at with the power of passive income. You can get paid while you're sleeping. You can get paid 24/7 passively in the backdrop, and you're no longer exchanging your time for money. You can choose to serve families. You can choose to really take your midwifery practice, your doula, your lactation practice to that next level, because the income, the poor reimbursement is not that hinge of how do I serve this specific population. So think about it. If you had put some work up front on a project, time, money investment, and it generated income for the rest of your life, would you pass up that opportunity? Would you, if I confidently told you, you wrote this book, you're going to make $1 million over the next 40 years? Most people would say, I will do that. It's that fear of unknown, of confidence. Is this going to sell? Is this going to be valuable? Is this time I'm putting in right now going to create that long-term passive income stream for me. And that's why we diversify, and that's why we create things we're good at. We create things that make us happy. We create when that passion and that knowledge that's really, that conviction is present. It's obvious on your courses, your content, your resources, whatever you're making, that's going to create that long-term passive income stream for you. The coolest part of it is a transition into a certain way of life. Once you get a taste of passive income, it's really hard to continue to exchange your own time for money because you know the power. It's literally a potential of unlimited return on investment. It's not, I can work 40 hours a week, I can work 50, I can work 60. There's just so much long-term. 5-10 years from now, you're going to be thanking yourself for spending those extra evenings instead of watching a movie, working on a project, working on some branding. Getting the right connections out there will make a huge difference in that momentum of your passive income streams. Creating value equals creating wealth. So anytime there is a need and you are being creative to fill it, you get compensated for that. So we already talked about it a few times. Why are multiple revenue streams so important? It's important for decreasing your risk in life. It's important for you to not be expanding and exchanging your time for money. I see it so many times with midwives that they'll start out small, they'll use their own cash, they won't hire people, they'll do the lawn mowing, they will do the QuickBooks accounting, they will do the office manager, they will do the receptionist, they will be their medical assistant. They will be all these roles, which in the first year, it's okay. You're small, you don't have a lot of clients yet. But as you build up momentum and you didn't set up your fee schedule appropriately to have these new people come on, that's when the burnout starts happening. People start working more hours. They're like, okay, I'm just going to, it's only 1 hour. It's just an extra task responsibility, but they all add up. With my private practice, I was seeing people all day, and there'd be many times I wouldn't get home till midnight, or I'd just sleep at the birth center so I could start working the next day because there was so much to do and I didn't have a good work-life balance, and I did all the things myself. I was so self-employed versus a business owner. So always thinking from the beginning, what am I good at? What are my strengths? What makes the most money? I may be good at that, but I can hire somebody for 1/10 the cost of my time being a midwife to do that service. So those are things to think about when you're talking about active income streams versus passive. Whose wonderful expertise as a marketer, a lawyer, an accountant can I leverage to take my business to the next level? It would take me 10 hours to make that project, and it would take a marketer a half hour. Does it really make sense for me to use my time to learn and to do that? And it's probably not nearly as good. So you have to always think about multiple revenue streams. Increase your security because now you have money coming from the stock market, mutual funds, bonds, royalties of books, you have online downloadable courses, you're exchanging your services as a midwife, as a consultant, as a speaker. You're doing so many different ways. So then all of a sudden, one can't be done because maybe a rule, a regulation, a political change, whatever it may be, it's only 10-20% of your income coming in versus 100%. When you have a job and they lay you off, you go from having a steady income to nothing. It's a very extreme, stressful situation, and your emergency account will only get you so far. You feel the pressure. I have to take a job somewhere else. I have to do XYZ versus I would like to do XYZ. So there's a lot of benefits to those passive income streams. There's a lot of opportunities out there to decrease your stress, decrease the risk of burnout, serve more families, handle the highs and lows of a startup business. If you have other revenue coming in other directions that can pay your bills, that can hire that extra staff a little sooner than what your own practice can do, there's a lot of potential with that. You can create foundations, you can create nonprofit organizations. When you have additional revenue streams that are above and beyond your lifestyle needs, Think of all the dream practices, all the dream missions you have that you can now fulfill to your community, to your family. The sky is truly the limit of creativity when there's income streams coming in. So other things to think about are leveraging other people's expertise, thinking of multiple revenue streams within your business, not just in your personal and professional directions, but also within your business. Thinking of not just doing home birth, birth center home birth, hospital birth center home birth. Now, if someone risked out of your home or birth center setting, and they need to go to the hospital, but they can still have a midwife in their care, you haven't lost that revenue stream. If they want an epidural, maybe they just need an extra monitoring, and there's just additional things to keep an eye on, that you need the resources at the hospital, but you don't need the physician quite yet. The average transfer risk fluctuates each month, and if you're getting paid by insurance, that's a big unknown variable of risk for your practice. If half of them risk out that month, 3/4 of your revenue comes from the delivery charges, and you still have staff to pay, you still have overhead costs, you still had a doula, you had go with the family, there's just overhead expenses still being paid. But if you don't have hospital privileges and you transfer care, you've lost a good chunk of your revenue. So having other ways of money coming into your practice, you could do classes, you could have other service expertise, you could have doulas, lactation consultants, childbirth educators, so many great resources that you would have just referred out to the community, but now have them on as either employees or independent contractors, and split a commission, make a win-win situation. And especially if you're billing insurance, many of these services, like a lactation consultant, they may have been doing it cash, but now they can go under your umbrella of insurance contracts and they're under your team. The families can now get lactation support, and their insurance will cover it with the Affordable Care Act. And so there's benefits to, instead of you thinking, well, I'm going to do this, how about hiring part-time, full-time, some of these wonderful expertise that are now under the umbrella of your revenue services being offered. That's why I love community centers, because you can have your own clinic part of it. You can rent out to many amazing services within your community, and you can make money off the building as a real estate deal, not just your midwifery practice. So instead of your midwifery practice having to pay rent for someone else, you now make money off of owning the building and having all the tax write-offs for the building to decrease your business taxes, versus you're paying a landlord, and now the landlord gets all those benefits in the backdrop. So there's a lot of potential with having revenue streams within your service sector and having revenue streams of the building itself. You could do tub rentals, you can sell supplies, you could have a boutique shop, especially if you have a birth center, and there's a lot of foot traffic with a community center of people coming and going. Try to get products that are more local, they're unique, they're people are willing, more time sensitive, that they can't wait a couple days for it to come online and it's generic. So having artwork, having herbs, having supplements that after the baby comes, they can't wait 2 days, they would like XYZ. Those are great things to have. Or during a prenatal visit, they need a little extra iron, they need some vitamin D, they need some calcium, magnesium. Yes, they could stop at the store, but if they've got kids and it's a convenience thing, having some of those supplements you can sell is an additional revenue stream. And then the service sector, thinking about not just doing births, but if, especially as certified nurse midwives, we can do full scope primary care of women. So you could do preconception counseling, you could do contraception, you could do infertility, you could do telemedicine, you could do pelvic floor, GYN treatment, sexual health, well woman care, menopause. I mean, the sky is the limit based on your creativity and what makes you passionate. You could do support support groups. You could do practically anything, weight loss management, and those things are a little more stable. Birth is on call. It's a 5-week window. You have to think 9 months in advance, and it's a great revenue stream for your practice. But when 100% of your revenue comes in for home births, it just makes your business a little more vulnerable. If 40% of the revenue comes in from the births and 60% comes in from all these other revenue sources, you're going to decrease your risk. And to be honest, the revenue value units for GYN care is a lot higher than the home birth maternity services. For your time to sit in front of somebody for a GYN problem visit is going to be a higher reimbursement than doing a prenatal visit. So I always stress, because midwives and birth workers, it's very interesting. When they think of money and they talk about it, the psychology behind money, money means more access for families. Money does not mean you're greedy. Money does not mean you're going to be that Scrooge miser. I want to challenge birth workers that financial knowledge, financial freedom can make us truly change access to our services all over the country. So goals of creating multiple revenue streams, we already talked about it. You want to maximize your potential in each category. You want to decrease your time committing to something and getting more money out of it. You want to be able to, when you're starting out, it's not really realistic to expect you to have tons of passive income. It has to be built over time. It creates momentum. Think about what could be the first thing you could create that could have passive income. So I always tell people it's the hardest to make the first million, and then once you get going and you have a springboard of other revenue streams, the rest accelerate because now you're using these other revenue streams versus your time to make great things happen. Looking at I always talked about when I got frustrated with my situation in just being able to exchange time for money, I got really burnt out, and I'm like, I'm smart, I'm a hard worker, but this isn't working. And stepping back and learning about the mindset of the lower class, the middle class, the upper class of our society, there's different mindsets that are present. There's a lot with the lower income of scarcity and fear and dependency on the system. The middle class mindset tends to be, I'm going to work really, really hard. I'm going to save for long term and retire. And that may or may not be the best option for you, especially if you have an entrepreneurial spirit. The upper class, it's a consistent theme of how do I create systems? How do I do real estate and business ownership? How do I get amazing employees that are going to have this expertise that I don't want to research and learn about? But I have a vision, I have a dream. How do I create jobs for people? How do I create access to this vision I'm thinking of? And so there was very classic themes present with these mindsets. And so it takes time to shift. It takes time to acknowledge where you're at and where you want to be. And so some of the things when we talk about your primary salary, whether it's you being directly self-employed for your private practice or working for somebody else, you want to do budgets. You want to look at paying off debt as fast as possible if it's one that's not making you money. There's different ways to look at velocity banking and which is good debt versus bad debt. But having additional income coming in from your salary, if you're breaking even every single month, you're not going to have extra income to devote to investing into your passive income streams. If you're going to have to look at things. Where can you cut corners? Instead of going to Starbucks, I'm going to make my own coffee. Instead of going out to eat 2 nights a week, we'll go out to eat once a month. There's opportunities to create additional excess funds coming into your life that now you can reinvest into other directions. The power of that mind shift, and instead of just living paycheck to paycheck, living month to month, and truly, okay, I will sacrifice XYZ because I know in 5 years, 7 years, we're going to be in a much better place versus I'm going to keep doing this rat wheel, this cage of just momentum of over and over again doing the same thing. So I talked about it a little bit. The average millionaire has 7 different income streams. So I can't stress that enough. If you want financial freedom, if you want security, peace of mind, you can retire when you want to, not be pushing it off because you have to. You want to be able to take care of your parents and give them home care and hospice versus they have to go to a nursing home. I mean, I can't stress enough the potential that income streams and financial freedom has and choices in our life. We don't even think about because it isn't really an option. We can't really say, I'm going to eat the best organic food every single day. I'm going to get a personal trainer. I'm going to take care of myself more, because there's those barriers of access to funds to make them more of a reality. So there's different ways to make money. Robert Kiyosaki has an amazing book series with Napoleon Hill Foundation, Rich Dad, Poor Dad, Cash Flow Quadrants. I think there's about 15 different books, and I've read all of them. And so it's a really good way for professional development, financial education, to start going down that rabbit hole of employment, self-employment, business ownership, and investors. So these are 4 different categories of how you can produce income. The ones that are on the left side of the bracket, employment and self-employed, are what most people tend to do. It has the highest tax brackets, it's active income, it's exchanging your time for money, whether it's for somebody else's business or for it's your own. So I always try to challenge my consultants and just people I talk to in general. How can you create a business system? How can you become an owner? And now you have a team that is now making it to the next level because your time is limited, and you now making money off of their expertise and skills because of the system you've created. How do you invest in real estate, stocks, bonds, whole life, annuities, so that you have other revenue streams coming into you passively? So the right side is where I try to get birth professionals. I try to get people to think you can still be self-employed. You can still work at your business if you choose to, but that's not your revenue income stream that you're dependent on to pay your bills. So earned income has to do with that active profit income. So from your business, interest income, those are those dividends, the stocks. If you're choosing to be a private money lender for somebody else, you put your money into a CD at a bank. There's a savings account used to make interest. So there's different ways to passively do it. Rental income tends to be the most powerful because of the tax benefits and the long-term momentum. So I see a lot of the upper class business ownership, real estate investing, very classic themes. Capital gains is another one, with fixing and flipping houses or selling your stocks to have an income from that. The tax brackets tend to be a little bit higher than real estate investing long term, and royalties has to do more with music and books. It's a way to put products out there and get a percentage commission off of it. So earned income is the hardest way to make money, and that's how most people do it. It is exchanging your time and getting paid with a paycheck 2 weeks later, especially salaried. It's supposed to be 40 hours, but most people, especially in administration and higher responsibilities, tend to work 50, 60 hours. And if you start breaking it down, it's actually pretty sad what you're making for your time. The most of us start out this way, and that's okay. I just want to challenge birth professionals to have long-term processes, momentum, other ways that are being created, so that you're not always exchanging your time for money. It breaks my heart when I talk to midwives in particular, and they can't retire. They don't have anything saved for retirement. Their back gives out. They get a divorce, and they're now in destitute pretty quickly because they've been living in this fragile life where they're exchanging their time for money. Well, you're not always going to be able to exchange your own time for money. And what are you going to do when your mind or your body, or you have grandkids, you have other responsibilities, you would like your time to go another direction? But then the income stream stops, that's paying your bills, that's supporting your lifestyle. So having passive income really is powerful to give you more choices. You can work when you want to, not because you have to. And so just earned income is a good starting point. It's a good part of an investment plan and financial income streams, but I don't want it to be everybody's 80, 90, 100% of that route of revenue. So profit income, selling products, selling the actual consulting service. I see a lot of midwives do open birth center models where they create the facility, they create the contracts for the facility, kind of like a hospital, and make privileges, and then the midwives deliver there that are in the community. It's a great option. If you get a property manager, you get somebody that upkeeps the supplies, you get somebody, depending on if you're supporting the birthing assistants or if the midwives bring them, there's so much potential out there of profit income. You create something, you are now having staff and facility and products and services that are being exchanged for money. Interest income, it used to be a lot better. If you can believe it, in the 1970s and 80s, you'd get 12, 14% interest on your bank account, and many people would just invest there only. They would put their money in a savings account, and that interest was what they lived off of. They didn't have to decrease their initial funds they put in. It was just, our goal eventually is living off interest, but it's a lot harder nowadays. People have to choose more risky investments per se, more education, more variables in place than you did 20, 30, 40 years ago. So interest income is a little harder now. There's not a lot of great places that will do it. There's government bonds. Right now the interest rate's about 2.5%. I mean, a savings account is 0.01%. CDs are like 0.5 to 1%. And with inflation, you want to keep the purchasing power of your money. If anybody has looked at monetary history, the last 100 years, our dollar bills have lost 97% of their purchasing power. So I really want to challenge people. Our goal is not to just make 2, 3%. We want to make 8, 10, 12% on our money, because you want to beat the inflation curve depending on what algorithms and calculations. If you use the government CPI, supposedly we haven't had any inflation in the last 10 years, but you can look at the food, you can look at the prices of everything going up that we buy, and you want your funds to keep up with that. It's not just accumulating wealth, but making sure your purchasing power is held with your wealth. So some of my other courses, we talk about even diversifying with commodities, oil, gold, silver, platinum, these things that hold a little more purchasing power. Real estate is another great inflation hedge, because as the purchasing power goes down of the local currency, the real estate typically goes up in value. So yeah, so for interest, unfortunately, this isn't a strong part of many people's portfolios, revenue streams now. It used to be. So dividend income, instead of having a stock, you can have a dividend. So a dividend is buying a share in a company, you're part owner, and when they have profits, you get to share in the profits. So if they're not making money, you don't make money. So it can be a very good opportunity depending on the company. I know a lot of the whole life insurance options, that's what you're purchasing, is that wealth accumulation within the dividends of their company. So rental income is one of my favorites. I love business ownerships. I love passive income streams. Rental portfolios, they're just one of those things where you have to be careful. It can be risky, just like doing surgery and you've never trained for it. If you decide to buy a house, do you really know what to look for? What are the red flags? How do you calculate out the return on investment, the cash flow? How do you creatively make an acquisition where you have to put as minimal down as possible, and the value will, it's a great house that needs remodeling in an amazing neighborhood. You want the cheapest house in the nicest neighborhood. You don't want the nicest house in the cheapest neighborhood. And so those are skills, those are knowledge, those are things to get. Rental income, I encourage people to get a great property manager. How do you interview a property manager? How do you know they're going to appropriately screen tenants? What are they going to do if people don't pay? What is the eviction process like? There's a lot of knowledge that needs to be, whether you have it or your property manager has it. Rental income is great. It has a lot of tax benefits, as the purchasing power of the dollar bill's currency goes down. Typically, the housing asset value goes up. The nice thing is too, when the economy goes up and down, like in 2008, 2009, long-term real estate investing, you're not fixing and flipping. You're not buying it for the value of the house. You're buying it for the value of the income stream. So in 2008, 2009, when the housing market collapsed, there were so many foreclosures and there were so many houses on the market. People lost 50, 60, 70% of the value in their houses. But the rental income kept going up because all these foreclosures, people need places to live. If they can no longer afford their house payment, they're going to rent. So I love rental income because whether the economy is great or not so great, people need houses, people need food. So investing in things that are more essential versus luxuries will reduce the risk with your revenue streams. So more about rental income, there's great ways to do it. You don't have to use your own money to buy rental property. There's a lot of great strategies out there to put no money down, but you have to have the knowledge. You have to figure out the motivation of the person selling and how do you create a win-win situation. So it's definitely a long-term investment, buying and holding. You can fix and flip, but they're different tax brackets, and it's more of an active revenue stream because you're exchanging your own time for money. So yeah, real estate is a great option with the long-term aspect in mind. So the examples I can apply specifically to midwives and birth professionals. Instead of leasing your birth center and being at the vulnerability of the landlord not renewing your contract, or you start out small because you only need one birth room and you want to expand, you either have to hope the suite next to you opens up and you're at the whim of the landlord, versus you own the building, you have the additional space, you can remodel, you don't have to ask permission, you have a concrete, confident location where your branding, your marketing, your facility will be located. Especially with a community center, you have multiple suites around you. You can expand into the suite next door and move that person into somewhere else. You can choose who's within your community center. If a landlord owns the building, you don't know, are they going to put an obstetrician? Are they going to put an abortion clinic next door to your birth center? You don't have any control of who the other tenants are around you. So that power of creating a cross referral, I mean, I stress to my consultants the power of a community center, a power of purchasing an actual building to house your midwifery practice. You can have chiropractors, naturopaths, doulas, primary care, pediatricians, all these amazing cross referral opportunities that are going to cut down your marketing expense for your business. It's going to brand more to the community. Instead of saying there's a home birth clinic within that facility, they're going to say, oh my gosh, there's this amazing alternative friendly community center. So I can't stress enough how much I love rental income. I can't stress enough how important for your own business and for your revenue streams rental incomes can have. So capital gains is more with investments. It has to do with buying stocks and the shares within a company, and you pay capital gains once you sell the shares. If you hold them forever and you pass away and they go to your kids, they get inherited at the current value rate to your kids. They don't pay taxes till they sell on them. But it's also a risk. If you buy in a company and you pay $100 for that share and the company goes bankrupt in a year, you've lost everything. So I stress that to so many people because they don't understand there's so much of an illusion with our society that investing in stocks, bonds, mutual funds, doing a 401k, 403b is safe. It always goes up. Yes, the market has traditionally the last 15 years always went up. But if you look at historically, 2008 or in March 2020, if you were deciding to retire at that time and you can't fluctuate 30, 60, 70% of your living expenses, you're so vulnerable to the system of those highs and lows and unpredictability of the stock market. So it's great to have part of your revenue streams, capital gains, investments, but I stress not to have it as your only retirement long-term investment plan, because there's too much. People don't realize the stock market can go down overnight. People think they're just going to be able to get out quickly, but everybody's going to have that mentality, and momentum will just accelerate of decreasing the perceived value of those stocks and shares. So capital gain is great if you have it part of your revenue streams. There's a lot of great, talking with financial planners, there's a lot of great apps out there that can help you invest, but you're putting money in a stock into a company that you're trusting will make money, will grow and expand. So you want to do your research. You want to hire somebody to help you, a broker, a financial planner that understands how to diversify within the market. Royalty income, the more common ones I'm aware of are creating apps, creating a product within a bigger company, so an electronic medical record system, a billing system, a musician, a book writer, anything that you can join forces with. Inventing something, a patent for a company, the royalties can be unlimited. Malene Hagenberger with Denmark created an amazing speculum in 2015. She went to investors. She got it prototyped, they replicated it. She's now has royalties off of her amazing speculum that is going to help out with suturing and women all over the world. So there is so much possibilities out there. Creativity is your only limit. So royalties are making a profit consistently off of a product, a unique, tangible thing typically. So even with musicians, it was the records, it was the tangible rights of the music itself. So these are things that I talk about often when someone is thinking of starting a practice or they're well established and having trouble with their revenue. How can we increase profitability for this practice? You have a great team, you want to create this great team. Can you rent out rooms? Can you cross-refer, increase your marketing campaigns with different amazing practices within your community or down the street? Can you do meetup groups? Can you do educational classes? Can you do something that's going to have more revenue coming in directly to your practice? I try to not get midwives to think, well, just add an extra office day, add more hours, because we're still in that active income. I want to start getting midwives and birth professionals to think, how can I add passive revenue into my life? What can I create? What systems can I build? What value, what needs are there that I can fulfill? So GYN and primary care services, specialty niches, there's great boutique shops and great. Women are looking for sexual health support. Women are looking for pelvic floor therapy, perimenopausal alternative therapies. There's so many specific things that midwives can get into, especially semi-retired midwives that don't want to be on birth call anymore, really talking about the potentials of creating a women's health clinic, a primary care clinic, adding additional certifications, wellness coaching, functional medicine. There's so many possibilities you can add into your services or your team. You have other nurse practitioners, you have other midwives part of your team that can get certifications, and now those services are being offered under your company's umbrella branding. So some of the first things that certified nurse midwives, just because I'm more familiar and that there's more expanded scope potential, specific procedures, anytime you're doing something more surgery related procedures, unfortunately, insurance revenue value units are higher. Mental health, birth, and preventative medicine are unfortunately the lower revenue value units with insurance reimbursement. I don't make the codes, I don't make the insurance, it's just the way it is. So if you first assist for C-sections, say you have a lady that goes in, you have hospital privileges, she did an induction, baby stressed out, you can still give her amazing continuity of care. You can get paid for first assisting. You're still part of her birth experience. She has so much trust in you, and you are that concrete leverage throughout her whole birth process, no matter if it ends up vaginal delivery or C-section. Circumcisions you can offer within your practice, get that training, bill to insurance. Ultrasound services, there's a national certification for certified nurse midwives. I have a great friend, Carolyn Geiger, that does ultrasound for midwives. She has an 8-hour in-person or online course that can help you to prepare for that certification process. And that's a very lucrative thing to add to your services. Plus, it's very nice for families if they're 9, 10, 11 weeks and you can't hear a heartbeat. Instead of referring them out to a local hospital, you can get your ultrasound machine, give them peace of mind. There's a lot of quality benefits on top of revenue streams for your practice. Endometrial biopsies, colposcopies, if there's an abnormal pap smear, typically midwives will refer out. So you just have to look at the cost of the supplies. What is it billing for? What is the average reimbursement? Does it make financial sense to add this service to my practice? Diaphragm fittings are an interesting one, especially with out-of-hospital private practices. I've noticed across the country, very few obstetricians and nurse practitioners are taught about diaphragm fitting anymore. It tends to be, it was very popular in the 1990s, and a lot of more natural focused families, so typically birth center home birth midwives, I had a lot of cross referrals from other midwives in the community and obstetric offices to do their diaphragm fittings. It's not hard. It's a very cheap overhead startup, getting the fitting kit and then buying the supplies. So that's a great service you can add to your practice. IUD removals and insertions, I would definitely stress, look in your area. How much does it cost to buy the Paragard, the Mirena, the Skyla, and what the insurance will pay? I found in my local area, if I bought it 1 to 5 at a time, I paid more for that supply than what the insurance paid me. I'm not a big organization where if you buy 50 to 100, you get it at a 30, 40, 50% discount, and now you're making a profit. So maybe you have multiple midwives in a community, and that's the benefit of bulk ordering, that you can buy a supply every 3 to 6 months. I mean, these supplies don't expire for 2-3 years minimum. They have a long shelf life. You could buy in bulk together and then be able to actually make money on that insurance side. So those are things to just think about. You always want to do a cost analysis if you're thinking about adding a procedure or a service or a revenue stream in general to your cash flow. Does it make cost-effective sense? What is the startup? What is the overhead? What am I going to make for exchanging that time? Next one on removals and insertions. That one's far more profitable than IUDs. I don't know if the insurance reimbursement, they negotiated really well as a company, but that one has been much more lucrative for the supply and the charges you can bill and the backdrops for it. And it's a great option. Urinary incontinence therapy, it can be very lucrative if you understand the billing codes really well, you get the certifications. There's definitely a need for women and pelvic floor therapy and that type of services. Menopausal therapy, a lot of women are looking for more natural. There's a lot of hormonal changes. There's so many niche services we can offer if you have a passion for it and you want to learn about it and offer it within your practice. So So we already talked about it. I talked to a lot of midwives. It's so fun to me across the country learning. Some of them are already doing a great job. I talked to a couple of them that have an herbalist shop. They have things, they do placenta encapsulation. They have things they referred out all the time, and they just trained their birth assistant to do it. They just trained XYZ person or did it themselves. And now that service, maybe they couldn't find it in the community. They had to they tried to refer people out and couldn't make it and couldn't find it. They consistently wanted this education. They consistently wanted this product, and they now found somebody to make it, or they found it in bulk online that wasn't cost effective for families to get. And then they would have it in their boutique shop. They would have, I see a lot of birth centers and boutique shops owned by midwives side by side. Because our hallmark is homeopathies, tinctures, local woman empowerment, artwork, supplements, supplies to support the family. I mean, even I was talking to a couple of them that do sexual health clinics, and they do a lot of the vibrators and sexual health products and services, intimacy things, lubricants, because they take care of a population. I mean, they don't know which is a good product, the quality, the chemicals, the what's in it. They don't want it shipped to their house. Like, I was joking with a lady that she has an older population, and she's like, I don't want my grandkids to get my mail for me, or all of a sudden you start getting things in the mail because you signed up for one product, they start sending you things. And so people want more discreet options than online with some products and services. So you just have to think about, with my skill set, with the needs in the community, what can I do? What would I love to serve? What are different ways to expand the business revenue streams? So I stress it over and over again, but I can't stress enough. Why do we diversify? We diversify in our personal and our business revenue streams to decrease the risk. I can't stress to you how you feel with financial freedom, the choices you can make. If you want to go on vacation, you want to do XYZ with your kids, you want to buy the healthiest and the best, you want to get a personal trainer, you want self-care, but there's an overhead cost to it. There's a budget you're on. You want to save, you want kids to go to the best college, you want to start this business, you have a great idea, and it takes XYZ amount to get through the patenting process. Like, that glass ceiling that we have from limited revenue streams, and the risk and how vulnerable we are. If all your money's in the stock market and all your active income is from you working, you're very, very vulnerable, because your body may not be able to do it tomorrow. You may get in a car accident. You may not mentally be able to, your partner, your family member passes away, and you want the opportunity to grieve versus you have to go back to work the next day. So it reduces the risk of life. It reduces the restrictions of the anxiety at play, the potential of not having control over outside things. You can't change that COVID happened. I've talked to a great midwives that were just hit so hard because they had consulting services, they did on-site conferences, education all over the world, and when COVID hit last spring, they lost their only income stream. They went from amazing income to now destitute very quickly. They couldn't control, they couldn't fly anymore, they couldn't control, they can't go on site, they aren't tech savvy, didn't have backup plans to make it virtual. They just canceled and paid the money back to people. They didn't have online education. There's so much knowledge in their head, but they don't have the skills to do the technology side. So working with those semi-retired midwives and creating more security within their life, within their business, by having these other ways for the knowledge to get out on different platforms that aren't so dependent on outside sources. So that's the whole point, is you want to reduce the risk of burnout, reduce the risk in your life, create financial freedom, create more opportunities for you, for the families you can serve. I mean, could you imagine if I told you make a business plan where money didn't matter? How do you want to serve people? What do you want your birth center to look like? What do you want your clinic to look like if money didn't matter? You can create a foundation, you can create a nonprofit, you can, from your other multiple income streams, create that type of midwifery practice. So there's just so much potential benefit. So a lot of people have this illusion of you have to be rich to diversify. I don't have a lot of time. I'm on this rat wheel. I'm exhausted. I'm already working 100 hours a week, Leslie. I can't add any more responsibility or training or anything. I can't do it. So then we talk about going back to the basics. Just look at your budgets. Where's your money going? Sometimes when we're on automation and using credit cards and there's auto pays out there, we didn't even know. There's just leaks in your financial bucket that are just pouring out money one direction to the other that you're not even utilizing. So it's very powerful to go back to the basics and do a budget. Look at all your credit cards closely. Are there some auto pays you're just not utilizing? Are there some auto pays you just don't need? Are there things you're buying that make your lunches instead of buying fast food in between home visits? Is there so much potential to find ways to get money and to get revenue that can be put into a way to make you money? Instead of getting pizza and fast foods, you can now put that $150 a week into an investment, into something that's going to make you money versus you're just in 5 years going to be in that same place. So there's so much potential to give you options to expand your income, to save money for a rainy day, save money, like even the creative one, renting a room in your house. If your kids are out of the house, you've got a big room, a big house, Airbnb. Maybe you have a craft, maybe on Etsy, there's a bunch of stuff. Having a garage sale, having looking through everything you have and just simplifying and seeing, oh my goodness, I have XYZ that's been sitting in storage for 30 years. It's worth a lot of money. I haven't looked at it. I don't need as many material things. There's a lot of ways to bring funds into your life quite quickly that you can invest into passive income streams. So here are all the references. And I just want to end with stressing, I love midwifery. I love birth professionals. I love empowering women and family. And I think if we're so used to the system taking care of us, so used to that security blanket illusion of pensions and retirement and these benefits that may or may not be there. I mean, Social Security, they're predicting is going to get less and less. There's so many things. If we can be more accountable on us, I want women empowerment for ourselves, not just thinking about the families we serve, but what about our own families? How do we create income streams? How do we, in our life, things that make us happy, things that can come from different directions so that you can handle the highs and lows of things outside of your control.